Eraserhead wasn't just an experimental student film. It was a haunting fever dream that took years to escape and almost destroyed its creator in the process. Behind its surrealist horror and industrial nightmares, Eraserhead endured maddening delays, crumbling relationships, and near-total studio abandonment. Actors were stranded. Sets were built in freezing temperatures with no budget. And David Lynch lost himself so deeply in the film that he forgot how to live outside it. This is Eraserhead, a film born from obsession, crafted in chaos, and whispered about for decades. Here are 20 weird facts about Eraserhead that you didn't know, from decaying rabbits to abandoned sound stages and the secret of that baby. And wait until you hear the bonus fact, a hidden truth Lynch has never fully admitted, but fans still argue about to this day. Let's crank up the radiator and dive into the nightmare. 1. It took nearly 5 years to finish. Eraserhead wasn't made, it metastasized. What started as a short film project ballooned into a 5-year odyssey of night shoots, rewrites, reshoots, and restarts. David Lynch began filming in 1972 at the American Film Institute, but didn't premiere the movie until 1977. That's longer than it took to make Apocalypse Now, and just as grueling. The reason? Funding vanished. Crew members dropped off. Sets decayed between takes. And Lynch's perfectionism slowed everything down. He once spent an entire year perfecting a single scene, just 1 minute of film. Lynch later joked, "I thought it would take 6 months. I didn't know I'd be living inside it forever." It wasn't a delay, it was an obsession. 2. Lynch lived in the studio. Literally. While working on Eraserhead, David Lynch didn't just direct the film, he lived inside it. Unable to afford rent, Lynch moved into a stifling set room at AFI's abandoned stables, where the film was shot. He slept next to props, ate beans and coffee, showered at a friend's house miles away. Every morning, he woke up in his own nightmare world. The boundaries between dream and reality blurred. Lynch recalled hearing the sound of industrial machines in his head even when no one was working. It wasn't a set. It was a purgatory. He once said, "You'd go to sleep, and when you woke up, you were still in Eraserhead." 3. Jack Nance. Never left the character. Jack Nance, who played the haunted Henry Spencer, wore his iconic electrified hairstyle for the entire 5-year shoot. He never cut it, never restyled it, never changed it, even when filming paused for months. That meant Nance spent half a decade walking around Los Angeles looking like he'd just been struck by lightning. Why? Continuity. Lynch demanded that no matter how long the shoot stalled, the character's look must remain untouched. But it took a toll. Nance became reclusive. Friends said he became Henry, quiet, withdrawn, and paranoid. It wasn't a performance. It was a possession. The baby remains a secret to this day. What is the baby in Eraserhead? That slimy, inhuman thing wrapped in gauze? To this day, no one knows how Lynch created it. Even close collaborators say they were never shown the puppet or mechanism. Some believe it was a skinned rabbit fetus. Others think it was mechanical. Lynch? He won't say. When asked, he just smiles and whispers, "It was born nearby." What audiences didn't know was that the creature was operated with wires so fine and so well hidden that even up close it appeared alive, not a prop, a monstrosity. And that secret? It's still intact. 5. Stanley Kubrick called it his favorite horror film. Few directors are as exacting as Stanley Kubrick, but even he was blown away by Eraserhead. During the making of The Shining, Kubrick screened Eraserhead for his cast and crew, including Jack Nicholson, to set the mood. He called it the most original horror film he'd ever seen. Kubrick didn't see it as a student film, he saw it as a challenge, a provocation, a warning that true dread came not from monsters, but from fathers. Lynch, when told of Kubrick's praise, reportedly said, "Well, that makes me feel like vomiting with joy." Time 6. He, sound design. Was torture. Eraserhead isn't scary because of what you see. It's scary because of what you hear. That constant hum, the screech of metal, the low, nauseating thrum of machinery. Lynch built a world that never lets your ears rest. To make it happen, sound designer Alan Splett spent a year crafting the industrial soundscape. He recorded busted air vents, malfunctioning refrigerators, and broken engines. Splett mixed these sounds into dense layers, often repeating the same tone for entire reels. Not background noise, sonic punishment. The result? Audiences felt trapped, not in a theater, but in Henry's mind. It was funded by paper routes and hot dogs. With no studio backing, Lynch had to get creative. To fund Eraserhead, he took a job delivering newspapers at 3 a.m. Jack Nance's wife, Catherine E. Coulson, who played the lady in the Radiator, sold hot dogs on the side. Crew members worked for free or for food. At one point, Lynch got a $1,000 donation from Sissy Spacek, yes, Carrie herself, who believed in his vision. It wasn't a film supported by Hollywood. It was scraped together by hand, dime by dime. Not a budget. A sacrifice. 8th sets were built from trash. The haunting sets of Eraserhead, all concrete, broken plumbing, and filth, weren't designed. They were scavenged. Lynch and his crew raided junkyards, warehouses, and dumpsters across Los Angeles. They found rusted pipes, industrial fans, and twisted metal, then lugged it back to AFI's stables. The apartment interior, built by Lynch himself with cast-off materials. The radiator was a real one. So was the leaking ceiling. Every piece of the set was touched by decay. Because it was real, not art direction, urban archaeology. 9. Lynch mixed in real dead animals. For some of the decaying organic textures seen in the film, especially in dream sequences, Lynch used real dead animals. One set piece included a rotting bird carcass. Another featured maggots crawling over discarded meat. The stench became so overwhelming during shoots that crew members would gag between takes. Lynch believed in realism to a disturbing degree. If something was supposed to rot, it had to actually rot. The horror wasn't simulated. It was fermented. 10. The AFI almost pulled the plug. Multiple times midway through production, the American Film Institute grew concerned. They'd approved Lynch's project as a short film, but as Eraserhead expanded and Lynch refused to explain the plot, administrators started threatening to shut it down. More than once, Lynch was summoned for progress meetings. He deflected, dodged, promised updates, but kept filming in secret, using any leftover studio time he could steal. Eventually, AFI just gave up. They let Lynch work in the basement, hoping it would burn itself out. Instead, it became a classic. If you're still watching, you're one of the brave ones. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because we're only halfway through, and what's coming next is darker, stranger, and even more twisted. 11. Jack Nance's marriage collapsed. During filming, Jack Nance's dedication to Eraserhead came at a steep cost. His marriage. While he poured himself into the role of Henry for over 5 years, his wife, actress Catherine E. Coulson, who also acted in the film, endured long nights, freezing sets, and uncertain pay. She helped fund the project, cooked meals for the crew, and stood by Nance, even as the film consumed him. But the prolonged production strained their relationship beyond repair. Living on set, Nance became more like Henry, emotionally distant, silent, and obsessed. By the time filming wrapped, their marriage had unraveled. Coulson filed for divorce shortly afterward. What audiences didn't know was that Eraserhead wasn't just an artistic collaboration. It was a personal implosion, not just a film. A love story turned casualty. 12. The Lady in the Radiator was a late addition. That unforgettable figure, the lady in the radiator, with swollen cheeks and a haunting smile, wasn't in the original script. Lynch added her years into filming, realizing the film needed a release valve for Henry's dread. Actress Laurel Neer was cast in the role, and Lynch built her tiny stage inside the Radiator using scrap metal and cotton. The song In Heaven was composed by Peter Ivers and recorded in a basement with minimal equipment. The whole scene took days to light and shoot properly. Lynch described her as a symbol of escape and comfort, though others argue she represents death. She didn't just live in the Radiator, she lived in the audience's nightmares, not planned, manifested. 13. The baby leaked fluids on set. That grotesque baby wasn't just creepy to look at, it behaved in disturbing ways. During one intense scene, crew members recall the baby leaking actual fluid from its nostrils and mouth. The goo wasn't planned. It was either from the puppet's inner tubing or something else, more organic. David Lynch refused to let anyone touch the baby prop. He handled it alone, covered it after takes, and stored it in a dark box. The leaking terrified the cast. It felt alive, not mechanical, but breathing. Catherine Coulson once said, "No one knew what was inside. It was uncanny. We were scared of it." The result? A scene so revolting and realistic that audiences squirmed in their seats. Not a doll. A living nightmare. 14. Lynch created the dream sequences. While meditating, the film's surrealist interludes, worms, planets, and spectral women, weren't storyboarded in advance. Lynch meditated nightly during production, often falling into lucid dream states. He'd wake up and sketch what he saw: deformed chickens, men pulling levers in space, decapitated heads in puddles. These images weren't written. They were channeled. He called it dream logic, where meaning is less important than mood. Many of the dream sequences were shot last, long after principal photography, and often with no clear plan. Lynch would build a set, light it abstractly, and simply roll film. Not planned. Dreamed into existence. 15. One scene was shot in complete silence for days. The planet operator scenes, the pale man pulling levers in space, were filmed in total silence over several days. Lynch demanded quiet on set, banning casual talk, music, and even movement between takes. Crew members whispered and tiptoed. The actor, Jean Lange, stood under hot lights in full makeup, moving only when Lynch instructed. Lynch believed that silence created reverence and fear. The crew felt they were filming something sacred or cursed. No one understood the scene, but Lynch insisted, "It's not about understanding. It's about feeling, not just silence. Ritual." 16. The premiere. Confused and terrified, audiences when Eraserhead finally premiered at the FilmX Festival in 1977, the audience didn't clap. They didn't boo. They just sat there. Some were silent. Some laughed nervously. A few walked out, visibly shaken. One man reportedly vomited in the aisle. Lynch stood at the back of the theater, unsure if he'd failed or succeeded. But over the next few weeks, something strange happened. People came back, again and again. Word spread. Screenings sold out. Eraserhead wasn't a hit. It was a virus. It didn't win over crowds. It infected them, not applause. Obsession. Point 17. The film was banned from certain art houses. Believe it or not, Eraserhead was too weird even for some underground theaters. In 1978, several art house cinemas across the U.S. pulled the film mid-run due to complaints. Some accused it of promoting nihilism. Others claimed it induced seizures due to its strobing and sound design. In Boston, a theater manager labeled it unfit for public consumption. It wasn't gore. It wasn't violence. It was energy, oppressive, suffocating, raw. Lynch never addressed the bans. He simply smiled when asked. It wasn't rejection. It was proof of power. 18. Eraserhead. Almost ended Lynch's career. After 5 years of work, Lynch had no money, no job offers, and a film that made 0 cents to studios. He almost gave up. AFI refused to fund another feature. Distributors passed. Agents ghosted him. Then, by pure chance, Mel Brooks watched Eraserhead at a midnight screening. He was so impressed, he offered Lynch the directing job for The Elephant Man, on the spot. In one night, Lynch went from fringe weirdo to Oscar nominee. Not failure. Rebirth. 19th. It was a midnight movie sensation. Eraserhead didn't explode on opening night. It simmered. In New York, it ran at the Waverly Theater for over a year, screening only at midnight. The same audiences returned week after week, memorizing the lines, analyzing the dreams. It joined the cult circuit alongside the Rocky Horror Picture Show and Pink Flamingos. Soon it wasn't just a movie. It was a rite of passage, not a screening, an initiation. 20th. It influenced everything from Nirvana to The Simpsons. The cultural ripples of Eraserhead run deep. Kurt Cobain called it his favorite movie, watching it nightly during his darkest periods. The Pixies sampled its sound design. The Simpsons parodied it. So did Family Guy, Rick and Morty, and Twin Peaks, which Lynch later created using similar dream logic. What audiences didn't realize was that Eraserhead quietly rewired how stories could be told on screen. It made horror personal, surrealism cinematic, dread beautiful, not forgotten. Foundational. Bonus fact: the baby might have been real. Here's the most disturbing rumor of all, and Lynch has never denied it. Some believe the baby wasn't a puppet at all, but an actual animal fetus, modified and hidden inside latex skin. The most popular theory? A skinned lamb fetus, preserved and fitted with mechanical tubing for movement. Lynch was reportedly spotted leaving a local veterinarian's office before filming began. Crew members said it smelled organic. A few refused to touch it altogether. When asked what it was, Lynch smiled and said, "I promised I wouldn't tell." To this day, no one knows for sure, and that mystery is what haunts audiences more than anything else. Not a prop, a living question mark. Eraserhead wasn't made for mass approval. It was made for the dreamers, the insomniacs, the ones brave enough to stare into the void. What began as a student project became a myth, a film carved from metal, bone, and fear, and somehow it launched David Lynch into cinema legend. If this breakdown twisted your brain and stirred your curiosity, like this video, hit subscribe and let us know in the comments. What do you think the baby was? Because in heaven, everything is fine. But down here, it's Eraserhead.